everyone. Thanks for joining us for this very exciting webinar. I love doing webinars. It's great to be back into it. We're doing webinars more now because it's a lot harder to see everyone face to face. And the good thing about webinars is we can actually connect with many more of you guys out there in your practices, and hopefully it's more convenient for you. Be interested to hear your feedback on how this goes. So today we're doing email newsletters, and the topic is developing strong client connections with clinic newsletters. And this is a really important topic, particularly through the COVID period, where the nature of our industry is that we have struggled to find staff, and really, we're doing a good job as practice managers and owners to actually deal with our existing clients and trying to make the most of those relationships. So, what is a strong client connection? And I think, everyone here today intuitively knows what that is. They've had strong client connections. I want to go through the key points that signify a strong client connection, which is the basis of our effective and successful vet practices. Well, first of all, there's trust in your expertise. People need to take a leap of faith when they're dealing with you, because they don't understand the intrinsic technical details of veterinary care, but they do trust you to do that. It's really important, and that the more they trust you, the stronger that client connection. And from that, they trust your advice. So this is where the power of the veterinary recommendation comes into play. And we know that veterinary recommendation is accepted and believed in at 80% of the time. So 80% of the time you make a recommendation, it's trusted and believed in. It doesn't necessarily mean that the client acts on it, because there are many other things involved in acting on a recommendation, but the level of trust in advice is very high. And then the other thing about a strong client connection is that you become their vet of choice, meaning it's very hard for them to then go and move off to somewhere else, or say, I'll just get it somewhere else. With strong client relationships, the client is always thinking about coming back to the same place. And we know that there's a real opportunity to improve trust, because something like 63% of surveyed pet owners use multiple vet clinics. So let's look at how we can actually build that connection. And look, I think it's important to realize that trust and strong connections take a long time to develop. If you think about all the time you spent learning your craft, so that's your skill set, and then building the trust with your clients. Everyone here knows how long that takes. And so if we're talking about how you build these strong connections with clients, you can't do it within the clinic alone. If you look at the pet owners spend most of their time outside of the clinic. So we need to look at what we can do outside of the practice. And one of the keys is having a regular conversation. And if you could talk to your clients on a daily basis with something useful, they'd be stoked. And you would really get animal care to an incredibly high level. Of course, actually talking to them verbally is very difficult and sometimes not appropriate, but you need to have a regular conversation. That's why email is an excellent tool, and we recommend monthly communications for engaging newsletters currently in the current climate. You've got to look at also the preferred source of communication. Imagine sitting on the couch during COVID and you get a phone call from someone in the evening after dinner. You really don't want to take that phone call. However, if you receive an email, it's much more palatable and digestible, because the client can choose when they look at it, how they look at it, how much they look at it. It's totally within their control. Equally, texts are quite intrusive because they come to the forefront of the phone and are much more intrusive. So email is preferred as a source of communication in that respect. And then also, if you are going to keep in touch with your clients regularly, you want to look at having something of value to give them. And that's where the email newsletter comes into play, because you might want to give them some recommendations, some advice, or even some emotional connection about what's happening in your clinic. So we're talking about strong client connections, but what are the benefits? Why do we bother? You know, it does feel good to have a good, strong client connection. You smile, you see them in the street, you see them down at the shop, and you say, you know, g'day Brian, g'day Julie, how you going? How's Popsy doing? But there's much more to it than that, and it stems from what we're in this profession for. And the first thing is health outcomes. What we want is animals to be better looked after. And if you have a good client connection, you've got a much better chance of having animals that are looked after better. And the second part of that is having client retention and growth. And what that means is the clients are more connected to you, they come back to you more often, and they spend more money with you. And we like to think of these two things of health outcomes and client retention and growth as being intrinsically connected, and it's like a virtuous cycle. So if you connect with your clients more effectively, the client understands the message more and acts on the recommendation, and then calls you to actually act on that recommendation, which means you get the business and your business grows, and you can employ your team and grow your business. So it's a fantastic connection there. Well, so how then, in this case, do clinic newsletters influence these improved animal healthcare outcomes? So the first one is through heightened trust in your expertise. So if you have a regular communication through a clinic newsletter, it builds trust by providing high quality information that supports what you say in the consult room, and that builds trust in your expertise. Then what happens is, because you're presenting healthcare recommendations in the newsletter, you get an increased take up of those recommendations. And we'll talk a bit more in a moment about why you get an increased uptake. But the first obvious reason is because you're putting information down in front of someone at a time that they can digest it, and you're making a recommendation. It raises the awareness amongst your clients of some of the potential issues that might be coming up, so they can be prepared, they can plan, and we're talking about healthcare issues. And as a result of this communication, we're seeing the animals more often. They actually come into the clinic more often. And we're going to talk a bit about how that works. The other thing too about an email newsletter is you can speak about preventative care. And one of the things that's a challenge for practices is spending enough time talking about the biggest growth area in our industry, which is preventatives. Dental care is a very good example. This is a great environment to be connecting about the issue and the benefits of good dental care. And as you know, it can be a real challenge to go through these things in a consult room when you only get a chance to see that client once or twice a year. So as a result of doing an email newsletter that has high quality information and recommendations, you're actually growing the animal healthcare knowledge in the community. There was a study by Pedigree or Mars quite a few years ago, which looked at how people get their information from about animal healthcare, and the veterinarian was not the first source. And that one of the reasons for that is it's quite difficult to access the vet. But they would get it from their neighbours, and they get all sorts of information about how to control fleas, and it might talk about putting garlic in your food, all sorts of crazy things. And of course today we have the internet. So one of the key things is making it very easy for your clients to access the best quality information easily, to compete with these other sources of where they could get their information from. So now we're going to have a look at why client retention is important, and especially during the busy times. And I'd say the last 2 years have been inadvertently busy times, or unusually busy times. As we know, we've had a high number of new pets being bought or acquired, but also it's been really challenging to get staff members, plus we've had staff members being unwell. So very busy times. Now, the first thing about client retention that's important in these cases is you need to make the most of what you currently got. You don't have capacity to be getting a lot of new people. And one of the things that's important to say is that acquiring a new client is way more expensive. In fact, it's 5 times more expensive than building the relationship with an existing client. So client retention in that case is a much better way to go. And if you put effort into your existing clients, it does help prevent them from going to competitors. We talked about this before. The more connected you are to your clients, the much less likely they are to think about going somewhere else. In fact, it has to be a real problem for them to go somewhere else. In fact, recently, you know, my local vet that I use, the only reason I didn't go to see them was because the whole team has COVID currently, so they're actually not operating, and so I went to another practice. But not, you know, I had to actually. It's a big hurdle to get over to go somewhere else. And then the other thing about client retention is those clients, if you look after those clients, are much more profitable. So it's almost like a momentum you build up with those existing clients. And we know that if your average client transaction per year is at $800, which is a standard that APL uses, it's a pretty good number. There are many clinics, a significant number of clinics out there that have a much higher number, you know, up to $1,600 per year. So that's because they really work on their existing clients and they make sure those clients have all the opportunities to look after their animals properly. The lifetime value of one of these return clients is around about $4,000. So it's much better to have those people for that 5-year period and longer than trying to get new clients to replace them. So how do new clinic newsletters support this client retention and growth? Well, the first and most important thing is it keeps you top of mind. What that means is that the client is thinking about you on a regular basis. Now, remember that most clients won't see you for 12 months. Some come more often, of course, but if we think about a client coming to see you once every 12 months, that's 364 days in between, roughly, where they're doing other things. And it's very hard to keep them focused on their animal health care at that time. But if you can give them a regular high-grade communication, say once a month, they will be thinking about you. Now, the research shows that over a period of 18 months, 50% of people that are interested in a high-value purchase, like a dental care, for example, will buy. But who do they buy from? Well, the first thing they'll do is they'll buy from the person who's top of mind. So if you've recommended a dental care for your clients and they decide in 3 or 4 months' time that they're actually going to get this healthcare done, then if you're in touch with them regularly, they'll think of you first. But too often, the clinics are not in touch with them regularly, and you'll see clients either not acting on their impulse to go and actually get something done about the teeth, or they'll go somewhere else where they do have a regular relationship like the supermarket and buy something off the shelf, which they think might do the job, like a chew toy or a chew, you know, food. And that's obviously not satisfactory from the animal healthcare point of view. And that's our responsibility to actually tell them that. So the really important thing about the email newsletter is it makes the person think about you and think well of you, so that when they're ready to act, they call you more often than if they don't get the communication. So the other part about it is it's building trust and loyalty with your brand. Just putting your name and your information, your colors in front of people makes people think about you and think well of who you are and what you do. And because people will think of you first and act more, it increases their lifetime profitability of these existing clients. We talked about the lifetime value before. It's around about $4,000, which is $800 a year over 5 years. You can increase that. You can get to that point and go beyond that by your better quality communications. The other thing it does, it allows you to talk about other services that would relate to that client. And so people can pick up information about things they didn't know about in the clinic and say, look, that actually applies to me. And they will then contact the clinic. Or next time you're in the clinic, you'll hear people talking, hey, I saw this thing on the newsletter. Can you tell me a bit more about that? So it's a really good way to promote grooming, dental care, any service that you want to promote. One of the things that we found during COVID is there's been a lot of disruptive changes, and your clients are particularly ready to listen to your changes. And if you are able to communicate them proactively, they are more patient and understanding. So a good example would be, rather than wait till the client rings up looking for an appointment, to tell them in advance that the appointments might be delayed. We might be a week behind. Because if their expectation is they'll get an appointment the same day, which they have done for the last few years, but now they can't, you can get some reactions, which I know a lot of you have had. So it's a really good way to actually put proactively messages in there about changes to the way the clinic's operating. And lastly, and very importantly, is it creates active promoters of your clinic. Active promoters is the modern word for word of mouth. And we know that word of mouth is the #1 driver of new business for your practice. So the better you bond with your existing clients, the more they will positively talk to their community, the more you'll get new people coming to you. So you can see there's a really strong flow on effect from building this relationship with your existing clients. So what I want to do now is have a look at the PetPack email newsletter service and talk to you through the key points and how it's relevant to vet practices and could be relevant for you guys. So just a summary here on this slide, you can see that you can see a picture of an email newsletter here, which has got some key features, which we'll go through in some live examples in a minute. The newsletter creates loyal and profitable clients through the mechanisms we've talked about, which is regular communication and using high-grade content. So the content produced in these newsletters is written by the best veterinary writers available because it takes a very special skill to find a vet who can write effectively for the general public. So it's got to be technically accurate, but it's got to be engaging. And as a result of that, this improves animal healthcare outcomes because people learn more. They're more inclined to actually give you a call to say, look, I want to do this procedure or take up this offer. Also, it's really important that the service appears on a mobile friendly device effectively and looks really good. So it's up to date in that respect. The editing system is really easy for you guys to use, so you can add your own material. And we have options for small animal, large animal, and mixed practice as well. So what I'm going to do now is just swap to an example of a email newsletter. So there on the screen, rather than a presentation, you can see the Cannington Veterinary Hospital newsletter. Now this is a client of PetPack in WA, a small animal practice. And straight away, just from, if you were a client of this practice, you just saw the top part of that newsletter coming into your inbox on your phone, you would know straight away it's from Cannington. So it's really important that it's the brand of the Cannington Vet Hospital because that is the organisation that the client has a relationship with. The picture here was provided by one of the owners. You know, that's his dog. So if it's a local area, you know exactly you're located. It's not coming from an organisation you don't have a relationship with, and so straight away you're much more connected with it. And features like this mean that the engagement rates with these newsletters are significantly higher than industry standard. In fact, they're about 50% higher. That means that 50% more people look at them. You can see there's sort of key features like book online or phone, because some people just, all they want to know is I need to ring them, or I need to make a booking. You've just reminded me I've got to make a booking. And if that's what happens and they don't read anything else, it's fantastic. Now, if we scroll down, you can see there's a fantastic photo here of one of the owners and a patient, a client who's been with the practice for a long time, and a story about that animal, Toby. This is produced by the clinic. And so this is what we call local content. And we encourage our clients, our clinics, to put this information in, because this is the bit that the clients, the pet owners, hook into. They know the vet, they know the culture of the practice, and they really want to read these stories. And these stories can be very simple. It could just be staff member of the month, or, you know, pet of the month, or puppy of the month. But it's this material that people connect with emotionally, and this is the material that the clinics can produce really well. It's very easy to do. All you need is an iPhone, and you write a bit of text, and our editing system, it's a bit like a Facebook editing system, it allows you to put it in there. However, there's a lot more information in this newsletter. So once you're engaged with the story, you might scroll down and you might get to, let's say, a story about, there's news in brief here, and there's a story here that might be relevant to you, or you scroll down a bit further and something here about, you know, eating dodgy foods, the things to look out for. So there's material in here for everyone in the client base, and there's something for everyone to connect with. And you can see there's a whole bunch of stories that roll down the page here. Now, if I show you, I'll move now to another example. This is from another practice, another part of the country, Victoria Point, once again branded with their own information. And they've got a lot to say this month because they've made some significant changes to the clinic. So there's a whole bunch of pictures orientating their clients for what the changes look like. They've got staff member news, and they've got the ubiquitous and incredibly effective puppy photos, which are so important for your clients to see. This is the sort of thing that connects them to you. And then below that, you've got healthcare information. And this is the information that we provide. So there's a lot in this newsletter for people to digest and connect with. All right, now going back to the presentation. So here is an offer for you guys, which we'd really love you to take up if you're interested, is you can actually try our newsletter service for 2 months and it's free. So no obligation 2-month trial. You get to send 2 editions and you get a full newsletter. You load up your client email addresses, you get sent to all those clients, you see their responses. You can add your own local content, and it's a terrific thing to do. The clinics that have done this trial in the past have found it really successful and a great way to get their heads around how the newsletter service works, how easy it is to use, and how much their clients love it. So I encourage you to take this up. If you're interested, there's a link at the bottom here, and we'll send you some more information after the webinar about the trial. And if you do that service, we'll give you full support. We'll give you the training on how to use the service and how to add your local content, and you'll find it's a terrific service. The newsletter service was the first service that Petpack developed. It's evolved a lot since then, but it's really important to reflect on how significant it is to clinics. We've had clinics in Australia using this service now for close to 15 years, and it's been really successful as it's evolved. So I encourage you to take this trial on board if it's something you're interested in doing. We're happy to help you. So jump on that link and fill in the details, and we'll get you started. Equally, if you have any questions, jump on that link too, and we can follow you up and have a chat to you about how it all works. All right, so that's fantastic. Thanks, guys. Thanks, everyone, for attending. Looking forward to hearing any questions that might come back from this. And we'll see you all at the next webinar. Thanks for attending and enjoying our Vet News newsletter as we go forward.